Breaker Crunchers, welcome to issue 101 of Couch Crunchers, where our podcast is the purest at 99.9%, and that's why it's also blue. With me is El Mecánico Samuel. How you doing tonight, buddy?
Muy bien. I'm here to talk all things Breaking Bad, but Better Call Saul, El Camino. Let's take it all the way, Jay.
Hell yeah. That sounds great to me. When we suggested to Lance that we should talk about Breaking Bad, he was like, I'm too cool for that. So now that I got Sam on and Lance isn't here, I think we're good to go. Let's do this.
Yeah, man. I mean, can you ever really be done talking about Breaking Bad?
Absolutely not.
It's a show that keeps on giving. You could watch it 10 years from now, and it will still be the best show ever made.
I think you're very much right, dude. That show is, oh my gosh, it's so good. I absolutely love it. You still hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
All right.
I also want to let you know that I do have my dog here with me. Come here, Goldie. Goldie, come here. She's keeping me company tonight. Come here. Come here. Let's show everybody. She's been a little puny this week because of the heat. And she's got black fur, so she's not really liking the heat right now.
Yeah, and she's not a shedding dog. We've got a black dog as well, but she's like a lab mix and she sheds, so she doesn't seem to mind the heat too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, when you got big old fur like that and it doesn't shed off, that's rough.
Yeah. She's not a big dog. She's like medium smallish dog.
Yeah,
she'll probably be about 40 pounds her whole life. She's really active.
It's about the size of my dog that's black, like 30, 40 pounds. Depends how much she eats.
But she's keeping me company tonight, and nice. Hopefully she doesn't need to go to the bathroom.
Oh, man. Hey,
animals and kids are notorious for being difficult to work with.
You're right.
Showbiz.
Yeah, you're not wrong at all, man. Not at all. So how's your week been, man? Besides the heat.
This week was a red letter week for me. Lance had arranged for me to interview Eric Roberts this week, and I got a twofer because he brought his wife along with him. And
yeah, did you know that was going to happen, or did that?
No, man, that was totally. They showed up. They said he was going to be with his business partner.
Okay.
For this product that they're promoting called the Phoenix, and it's like an erectile dysfunction device.
Yeah.
And last second they pop up and
whoops, didn't mean to do that.
Last second they pop up on the screen in our Zoom chat room, and he's got his wife with him. And honestly, she was fantastic. She was very cordial. She was she kind of added a lot of dynamism to the interview. She balanced it out really well, and it was a lot of fun. I would really love to keep doing it. I was, I don't know if it comes across like this, but I was very nervous at first, and I was really conscious of the time. So I wrote a script and I tried to stick to it, but yeah, I think next time I would probably shorten the script and allow more time for chit chat, banter.
I thought it was a great interview. I loved watching it. I was grinning ear to ear the whole time. So I'm like, holy crap, man. Couch Crunchers is interviewing like an actual, like legit, pretty big actor. Like Eric Roberts is a big name. A lot of people know who he is. And if they don't know his name, they see his face, they know who he is. So that was cool. That was really cool that we got to do that. And Lance is the one that got it set up and thought Sam would be best for it. And I totally agree. And we got the comic book barbarian in there, Corbin. What's up, buddy? Thanks for listening in. Too bad you couldn't come to the Halo night last night. I was sad we missed you.
Me? Oh yeah.
Well, yeah, you too. But Corbin missed it as well.
Yeah, I had a hard time getting out on Friday nights because there's usually some event going on.
Yeah, no, you're good.
But I hope you guys had a good time. Those video game nights are really good. I know that if I had been there. Hey, what's up, Larry?
Hey there.
If I had been there, I definitely would have placed dead last. I would have been the worst player consistently every game.
Maybe. That's the thing. I've got a few friends that are not good at it at all, and they still enjoy coming because I'd like to do a lot of casual games, and it's a lot of fun. You might have been the worst, or you might have been second worst.
Who was the worst?
Oh man, it depended on the game. It wasn't consistent. Like, I've got a brother-in-law who hasn't played Halo in years. He's about your age, and he's not very good. So he was last a lot of the times. But then there were other games where, like, when we would do swords, he was pretty good at swords, and so he'd come in there, be third place or something like that. Or we do shotguns where you have no shields and half health, so you really don't need to be that close to anybody to hit them, and they'll die. And that was a lot of fun for people that aren't as skilled either. And so you'd have someone like my buddy who was last a lot of the times, that he'd come in the middle of the pack and have a lot more fun. So I enjoy doing Halo nights when there aren't as many skilled people, because I'm just okay at it. Okay. I am not a great Halo player. I'm not like that great at video games altogether. I just love them. They're fun, and it's something that I do to chill. So when I do a Halo night, I don't like too many people there to be like good. Yeah. I was the top of the match for maybe 3 of the games, but usually it was Tyler, who's on the show. He's really good at shooters, and then another friend of ours called Ruthless Hunter. That I should maybe see if he wants to come on sometime. He actually streams on Twitch occasionally. He could be a good guest to have on sometime. But he's extremely good. Like, this guy is so good at video games. I don't know how he does it. But yeah, so it was a good time, man. I had so much fun, and we played until about 12:30, and then chit-chatted until about 2 a.m. last night.
Wow.
So, yeah.
You guys were burning the midnight oil.
Yeah, it was fun. I haven't done that in a long time. When I moved to Colorado, I did a couple Halo nights when I was there, and they were super fun, but I didn't have nearly as many friends in Colorado as I do here. Like, I grew up in Arizona, so most of my guy friends are here, plus all my family is here. And I've got 4 sisters, and all of them are married. So I invited all my brother-in-laws over, and they came. And then I've got my buddies here, and we had about 12 people here. It was a good time. It was a super good time, and laid back. I smoked a brisket.
There you go.
Did some jalapeno poppers. Oh yeah, I love doing it. And I got the best compliment ever today. My brother went to a barbecue restaurant, which I won't name because I don't want to badmouth them, because I honestly think they're really good. But my brother went to this barbecue restaurant earlier today, and he texted me and he says, "Dude, I'm eating at this place, and it just, compared to last night, sucks." I'm like, yes, that is the best feedback.
The barbecue place.
Yes, I did. But to be fair, these barbecue places like have stuff sitting in the warmer so that it can still be warm for people, and that's why it's not as good.
And it dries it out.
It dries it out, exactly.
I guess you could say you smoked them.
Oh! We need a sound bar, man.
NCIS Miami intro. Guess you could say you smoked them.
I love it, man. That's good. Oh man, but dude, yeah, the Eric Roberts interview was really good. If you guys are listening and you haven't checked that out, please do. It's on the YouTube channel, and we are going to be putting it up as a podcast as well, so you can listen to it. I think I'm going to need to do that. Might do it tonight and get it posted sometime next week, so you guys can give it a listen on the podcast feed.
And if it's something you guys enjoy, we'll definitely try to keep doing them. I mean, I had a good time doing it, and it seemed like the Roberts got what they were after. We talked for like 15, 20 minutes about their erectile dysfunction device. And so leading up to it, we're like talking about their sex lives, and it was just getting real cozy. Real cozy with the Roberts.
It was a great interview, though. Just really good questions. Like Sam talked a lot about the Killers video that Eric Roberts did. That, like, I didn't even know he did that. And you asked him what his favorite movie roles were, and he talked about some of the more obscure ones, like The Dark Knight wasn't on there. So I won't keep talking too much about the interview. I don't want to ruin what he said for those who want to listen to it, but give it a watch. It's about 45 minutes, right?
45 minutes. Some of the approach I try to take in talking to celebrities is it's a job, right? And it's not just their experience making the movie is like, if it's a big shoot, maybe it's 2 or 3 months.
Yeah.
of shoots. And then they're done. They're moving on to the next project. Whereas we get stuck with those movie moments forever.
Yeah.
And I remember talking to the cast of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory at Phoenix Fan Fest, which was their winter event that they used to do. They've discontinued it. And I asked, they said that the shoot was like 2 weeks when they were 10 to 12 years old. And they never would have guessed that it would become this part of culture, pop culture and storytelling, and such an icon to so many people, especially when they were just kids, right? They were just kids when they filmed it.
Yeah.
And yet to this day, they're still talking about it. They're still reliving the moments. And so when I try to take the approach of what was it like behind the camera? What was it like? What were the memorable moments for you behind the camera? What's funny about that Willy Wonka cast? I said, for us, movies, the scenes that really stick out and that stick with you are like the boat scene. And they were like, what's funny is that was the scariest scene to film. So I was like, okay, well, there's an instance where the on-screen and the behind the screen meet up, right? Those two scenes, our on-screen experience plus their filming experience, production experience matched. They're both scary. And so that's kind of what I was trying to get at with Eric Roberts. And he shared a little story about one of the films he did and how they were planning on shooting in one location, but they had to move to another. And anyway, that's kind of my approach. I'm trying to avoid asking cliche questions like, "Oh, how's your relationship with your sister Julia Roberts?" or what's it like to have a kid in Hollywood, or things like that. There's a very cliche questions. So I was trying to get a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
And I think we did that. I think we did a good job.
I think we did. I think we did. And props to you for doing it. Thank you. And thanks for Lance for setting it up. And I did set up the Zoom call. So I'm the IT guy.
Max, we couldn't do it without you, man. You're the tech whiz.
Oh man. Well, it was really good. So please check it out, everybody. I'm trying to think, like, what have I been doing this last week? And it's been like a little bit of everything, because I finished Breaking Bad earlier this week. And then I decided to rewatch El Camino, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. And I've been playing a little bit of Last of Us, watching a little bit of Westworld, but like haven't really dove deep into anything because my brother told me to finally watch Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I started it, got like 5 episodes in, and then my wife walked in on me watching it and said, "What? I want to watch this." So now I have to start it over and watch it with her.
Shut you down, rewound, go back to the beginning.
I know, right? Isn't it funny how in marriage, it's like your wife walks in on you watching a TV show that she wants to watch, and it's like you were having an affair. What are you doing right now? You are cheating on our TV time.
For real. There's certain shows I'm not allowed to watch unless she's home. And Last Kingdom is number 1 on that list. She's got to have Uhtred. She can't allow me to have Uhtred on my own.
That's pretty funny. Yeah, there's not a lot of shows that we have to watch together, and the ones that we do watch together, I don't want to watch them by myself. I like watching them with my wife exclusively. Excuse me, such as like This Is Us, A Million Little Things, Goldberg's, Last Man Standing, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Like some of these like more network TV shows, that's what I like to watch with my wife, and I don't care to watch them by myself. But yeah, if I had to wait to watch like The Last Kingdom with her, I would have hated that because I just want to get through it. Once I started watching it, I just wanted to watch it. And, I watched like 3 episodes a night until I finished it. Yeah.
So good, dude. I love that show.
All right. Well, let's get into the movie. Sounds good, man. Let's get into it. So we are going to be talking about El Camino in full spoilers. We're also going to be talking about Breaking Bad, full spoilers as well, because you cannot talk about El Camino without giving some Breaking Bad context. Like you shouldn't even watch this movie if you aren't familiar with Breaking Bad, because it's not going to be any
it's
good.
Kind of like watching Serenity without having watched Firefly.
Yeah, and I haven't seen Serenity, but I have seen Firefly. I keep meaning to watch Serenity.
I went to see Serenity before seeing Firefly. I didn't even know what Firefly was when I saw Serenity. And I was like, this seems like a really neat crew, and there's a lot of really interesting things happening, and I don't really get what's happening at all.
Does it take like the TV show then? It's very much a continuation of the TV show in Serenity?
So Firefly had 13 episodes. It seemed like they were trying to cram another 13 episodes worth of content into
a 2-hour movie.
Well, slightly less than 2-hour movie. So it was like 120 or 115 minutes or 110 minutes.
Wow. Yeah, I liked Firefly. It's a shame that it didn't get more. And they always I hear talk of them rebooting it. I'm like, at this point, weren't we a little past that? Anyways, that's beside the point. Yeah, so Breaking Bad, El Camino, full spoilers, and we might even get into some Better Call Saul territory here as well. But yeah, so I watched the movie back in November for the first time, and I really enjoyed it. But I hadn't seen Breaking Bad since 2013 when it ended, maybe 2014. But I hadn't seen it in 6 years or so. So it was not fresh in my mind, and I was watching it on an airplane on a business trip. And so I got like halfway through the movie when my flight ended, and then I went and I had to look up, how did Breaking Bad end again? So I couldn't remember half of what was going on. Like, I knew Walt died. I remembered that Mike had died. I had remembered some things, but I didn't remember all like the context to it. And so I read back up, and I'm like, okay, that's why that happened. That's what's going on. But and then I finished the movie, and I really enjoyed it then. But this time, I think it was on Monday or Tuesday. It was Tuesday because Monday I didn't work. So Tuesday, I had Breaking Bad on in the background as I was working, and then I finished it, and then I threw on El Camino right after that, and I watched it that evening. And holy crap, that movie is awesome to watch right after finishing Breaking Bad. It is legit, takes place right at the end, right when Jesse escapes. That's where it takes off from. And it tells the story of what happens to Jesse after that moment when Walt essentially rescues him in season 5's finale. And I just think it's such a fun story and well told and very, very different. It definitely is a movie. It doesn't just feel like a long episode to me. I mean, it does in the sense that it really does continue the season 5 story, but it feels like a movie. It definitely dives deeper than a TV episode would. But I really enjoyed it overall. What do you think of the movie, Sam?
So it definitely has a cinematic feel versus a small TV screen feel. The shots are wider. The filters are clearer. It didn't, Breaking Bad sometimes had a yellow filter on some of their shots. Didn't really get a yellow filter. If anything, it was like, felt like it was an early morning filter. Like they did a lot of their shots early in the morning. The story, I mean, the thing was that Walter White was gone. And so this is essentially Jesse's last chance to live a life free from Walter White's shadow.
Yeah.
And so Jesse Pinkman he's running as fast as he can through the streets of Albuquerque to get what he needs for one last opportunity to escape. And it's also kind of a recap or a love letter to Breaking Bad. So, the whole second act of like Avengers Endgame, where they're traveling back in time to gather up all the Infinity Stones, or that is, to me, that's more of a love letter and like a highlight reel of the
last
MCU.
10 years. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like a highlight reel of the MCU rather than they also had it feature as part of the story, but its primary function was to be a highlight reel. And El Camino has a lot of that in it too, because you're bringing back characters whose storylines didn't get a clear resolution. And I mean, there are issues with that because some of the characters or some of the actors who played those characters have gone through some physical transformation during that time between the end of Breaking Bad and the filming of El Camino. One of them is the young kid. For his name's like blanking on me right now. The guy who, the psycho that they pick up is like their third member in the final season.
Forgetting his name in the show. Is it Kevin? Yeah, he looks very different. He put on a lot of weight.
Gained a lot of weight, right?
Looks very different. I'm trying to remember his name.
Let me just pull it up here.
Yeah, and when I watched it in November, I didn't remember. I didn't realize he looked so different in the season 5.
Todd. His name was Todd.
Todd. I don't know why I was thinking Kevin. But then watching season 5 and then watching El Camino, I was like, oh, dang. Yeah, Todd looks vastly different. Clearly, we have had years of gap here, and this guy's put on some weight.
But at the same time, it's really cool that they were able to bring him back.
I agree. And he played a big role in it.
He was like the main villain. And it was a lot of wrap up, and the storytelling style of the writers for Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, El Camino lends itself to like a long form where you're seeing small decisions turn into huge consequences down the road. And or rather seemingly small decisions turn into huge consequences down the road.
Yeah.
And El Camino being so short, you don't really see a lot of that. It's more of, if I had to describe it in terms of analogy, it's like Walter White was dragging Jesse Pinkman down underwater in like the depths of the ocean. Mm-hmm. And now that Walter White's gone, Jesse Pinkman is finally able to swim back up to the surface as fast as possible. So it was like a slow descent, and El Camino is a quick ascent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so, the audience who's kind of climbing back up with him, you may get a little bit of kind of a storytelling the bends, where you're surfacing too quickly, and so you might get a little dizzy, a little lightheaded, and there's a chance you might get a little lost in the story, I'd say, because it does go really quick compared to Breaking Bad as a whole. That said, I did like the way that they finished Jesse Pinkman's story. It seems like he's finally ready to move forward, to get away from the horror that is Walter White, Heisenberg, and the Albuquerque meth trade. And it was kind of a nice send-off to all the characters that were a supporting part of that story. I would say that it's of the 3 Albuquerque verse series or productions, it's my least favorite of the 3.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it is a necessary part. And I don't think that we would be as satisfied without it. Just seeing Jesse drive off at the end of Breaking Bad, you're like, and the sirens, right? And the police sirens are moving. They're still in the area. And you're like, well, shoot, what's he going to do? Yeah. And then it's like, it's over. It's over.
And maybe some people would have liked that, to think, oh, does he just get arrested then? Is that what they're alluding to? Does he get away? And this tells you what happens. And I like that. And I like that Jesse gets a better conclusion. Jesse was no angel, obviously. He was not a saint by any means. But he tried to get out several times, and Walter White wouldn't let him. And he was another victim of Walter White's, really, when it's all said and done. Of course, he allowed himself to get into that position, but he was a victim of Walter White. And it was just nice to see that he got away, got to escape, and just live what we presume is a peaceful life in Alaska. And I really enjoyed the journey of him getting there, and some of the stuff that he got to do. And for me, at this point, Breaking Bad is one of the best shows to ever air on television, and I will rewatch it again. even after this rewatch that I just did. And to me, El Camino is essential watching. After you finish Breaking Bad, watch El Camino. Like you don't get the full story without it, and it's worth your time. I think it's under 2 hours, and it's definitely worth a watch, so that you can get that, to me, cherry on top to Jesse's story and some true conclusion and send off for him.
Yeah, I do agree with you that it is essential viewing, and you've got to think about all the people who kind of flew in Walter White's orbit. Jesse was the closest, because he knew about the drugs from the very start of Walter White's drug ring, right? His production, his descent into darkness. He was there like every step of the way. And so you'd say, okay, Jesse is probably Walt's primary victim, or the story is really the story of Walter White and Jesse Pinkman's journey into darkness. And Walter White is definitely the gravitational pull that's sucking them down into this black hole. And so once he's gone, everyone else managed to escape Walter White during Breaking Bad. Skyler, Walt Jr., anybody that survived was able to escape him during Breaking Bad while Walt was still living. Yeah. Jesse, though, was unable. So we needed to see him break free of that gravitational pull and strike out on his own. And so I agree with you. It's essential viewing. And I don't know that there was anything I would do differently. I guess when you're seeing the swan song or the send-off of your favorite program or the best program you've ever seen, it is going to be bittersweet.
Yeah. What I really like about it is when you think about like the present day story in El Camino, it probably encompasses maybe 40-45 minutes of the movie, and you could have done just that as an episode of Breaking Bad, and it probably would have fit into a TV structure. What to me really makes the movie stand out is all of the retrospection and all of the backstory we get on it. We get to see more of what Jesse had to do while he was in captivity from Todd. We get to see him go to Todd's apartment and see Todd that had murdered his house cleaner, and just like you get to see more of how just unremorseful Todd is. Like he's just like, yeah, it's a shame she had to die. It's really too bad, but he doesn't give a rat's. Like that character Todd just has no like remorse or feeling, and it makes him a very interesting villain, very compelling in that regard. But we get to see more of that background and that story of Jesse rolling her up into a carpet, throwing this maid out of a window, putting her into the back of a truck, and like putting her in the desert. You get to see all of that, and it's so well done. And Aaron Paul is a really good actor. The only thing that's a little bit jarring is that there have been several years between Breaking Bad and the movie, and Aaron Paul his face has filled out a little bit more just from age, and he definitely doesn't look like the early 20-year-old he's supposed to be in Breaking Bad. But whatever, I can see past that. You're making a movie that's years in the future that's supposed to take place 7 years ago. It is what it is. It's just like Better Call Saul. Bob Odenkirk. Yeah, Bob Odenkirk definitely looks a little bit older than he did in Breaking Bad. But whatever, it works. You get past it. But it's just always a little jarring for me when I watch the last episode of Breaking Bad and then I go right into that and I'm like, oh wow, his cheeks are a little bit bigger. He definitely looks older. But anyway, I loved all the backstory. You get to see more from Mike, which was really nice because Mike died in the original show and was such a cool character and is one of my favorite characters in Better Call Saul. So glad that show exists. And then you get to see a tiny little bit from Jane, his girlfriend in season 2 of Breaking Bad, Jesse's girlfriend, I mean. And I just loved it. Like you said, it's like a love letter to the fans, and I think they did a really good job on it. And you couldn't have focused the movie around a better character. I mean, really, Breaking Bad is Walt and Jesse's story. Walt's the main character. Obviously, it more focuses around his family and himself than anybody. But Jesse is for sure the second character in that story, and it was just great to get a send off for him.
Did you hear that?
Yeah.
That thunder?
Oh, is that what that was?
Dude, I hope my power doesn't go out. We're getting some early monsoon.
It rained by my house a little earlier today, around like 6.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we were out running errands, and my wife loves the rain. And so we're driving back, and it had rained just before we got back at like 6:15 earlier this evening. The storm had just come through. I always love it, though, man. Desert storms, they smell so good.
Yeah, the mesquite and the greasewood and the yeah.
Well, the other thing,
the creosote.
Yeah, it just smells great. And I've got a Palo Verde in the back of my backyard, so it definitely has a nice smell from the rain. But yeah, that's the other thing about Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, El Camino that I really like is the desert setting. It definitely feels like Arizona's backyard. I mean, it is filmed. It is filmed in New Mexico, but that part of New Mexico looks very much like Arizona does, and it's kind of fun. You don't see a lot of things filmed in that setting a lot of times. You know, you get a lot of stuff filmed in Georgia and Colorado settings and, you know, lush settings, but you don't really get the desert as much unless it's a Western. And it's just nice. It's real refreshing and fun. Different tones.
Yeah.
So those are essentially my thoughts on the movie. Is there anything else you want to talk about for El Camino?
So I really kind of enjoyed the structure of the story, which is, you know, he has to go to place A, then he has to go to place B, then he has to go back to A, and then he has to go to place C, and then he's finally, you know, once he finally puts the puzzle pieces together, which require him to go basically through all the different parts of Breaking Bad, he's able to use those puzzle pieces, and it's like she puts the Triforce together, and he's able to grant his wish to get out of Albuquerque. And I thought that was kind of a fun way to structure the story. Yeah. Aaron Paul is doing all the heavy lifting in, like you said, in the movie, and he's done a lot of work as Jesse Pinkman, so I think he's really used to the character. And even though he's very familiar with the character, it doesn't feel like it was phoned in. And maybe that's a function of the fact that he hadn't done it for 6 years. And so it felt like his performance was still really genuine. It was well done. You know, sometimes when you get
very well done,
sometimes when you get really familiar with a character, or actors get really familiar with a character, they can just kind of, go through the motions. Lance will never admit this, but that's definitely what happens in Supernatural. Is these guys have been playing the same characters for 15 years, and they know it's just kind of instinct, and they're not really doing it really powerfully, I'd say. I bet Lance is going to chime in any second now. Don't talk about Supernatural that way.
No, he said something to us in our Facebook chat about how he's still sick, though.
But no, I really enjoyed Aaron Paul's performance. I also really enjoyed diving a little bit deeper into his original drug dealing gang, Skinny Pete and those guys. Yeah, I really enjoyed getting to know them a little bit better and how loyal and powerful those guys were. And they did a great performance. They fleshed out those characters a little bit more.
And we finally saw Skinny Pete without his beanie. It was so weird when he took that thing off. I was like, wait, his hair. He's got hair.
Yeah. and so I feel like even though it was just kind of a tour of the Breaking Bad universe, it still carried a lot of poignancy. The performances were powerful. They were genuine. So I really enjoyed this movie, and I think anybody who enjoyed Breaking Bad would really enjoy it. And I guess the downside of the movie is when you tie in a movie to such a well-known and well-beloved property, it can be really difficult for someone who's not initiated into that property to get a full enjoyment out of it.
I totally agree. You can't really enjoy it without being more initiated into the Breaking Bad universe. And even then, I don't think you will enjoy it as much unless you're very familiar with Breaking Bad. Like, if it's fresh in your mind, it's going to be better. Because this viewing was so much better, and it was so much more raw and emotional. And Aaron Paul's performance like had me in tears at least once during the movie, just because of that context, realizing, holy crap, yeah, he had been held captive, and like the actual specifics of that captivity from the show were fresh in my mind. Like, it was just so good. So good. So Sam always asks standout performances. Aaron Paul. That was the standout performance for me. Kind of funny that Bryan Cranston has a short role in the movie. He didn't stand out to me at all. He's just kind of there. I actually don't even understand why they did that scene at all. I thought that was kind of just like a weird, unnecessary
cameo. It was just a cameo.
Yeah, I guess like that love letter.
He was wearing a skull cap in that scene. Yeah, because he's filming something else at the same time. They had to fly him in on a weekend. They put a skull cap on him. It was like big. They made it really secret because Bryan Cranston in Albuquerque is like a big, like that's a big deal. So they tried to keep it very secretive, very hush hush, and no one was supposed to know he was in Albuquerque. And they did that shoot, and then he went back to shooting the other project.
Yeah, which what would that have been? The one with Kevin Hart? It might have been that one. I can't remember the name.
Yeah, I think that was what he was filming at that time.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong, his performance was good. It just was.
It was very brief. It was just a cameo.
Like,
they just walked down a hallway together, and they traded a few words.
They ate dinner or they ate breakfast together or something like that at a cafe, and then they walked down a hallway.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an interesting conversation. Walt asks him what he's going to do when this is over. It seems to take place in like the season 2 era because Walt's bald. He's got a mustache, but he doesn't have the full goatee. So it's like sometime around that era. They still have the RV, and he asks Jesse, "When this is over, what are you going to do? You should go to college. What degree do you want to get?" And they talk about Jesse's hopes and dreams. And so I guess maybe it does add a little bit more than I'm thinking, because it gives you that feeling of, holy crap, Jesse was talking about becoming a sports medicine person and going to college, and Walt ruined this kid's life so much that now he has to freaking go on the run instead.
Yeah, they did really develop, or they wanted to develop that. Felt like they wanted to develop the kind of father-son relationship between Walt and Jesse. And, Walt ruins all his relationships with the people who are close to him. And so it was like, I don't know, it felt like a little on the nose, like a dad asking his son what his plans are.
Yeah. And there definitely is a father-son relationship between the two. Not at first, but you get into like season 4 after they've been through a lot, and it feels very much like that.
Yeah.
A very disapproving father. And a very tough father to please.
Yeah, he's like an abusive father figure. Jesse's parents don't interact with him at all. Mm-hmm. And so Walt is basically all he's got for guidance. Yeah. And Walt's terrible. Walt's the worst person ever.
He's a monster. Definitely. He is, though.
That's the point, is that by the end of it, you realize, okay, Walt was always this monster, and it was just like every episode they peeled away one little bit of his facade, and every choice you're getting to the true Walt, just one episode at a time. And by the end of it, he even admits to himself and to Skyler, he's like, I did it for me. It wasn't for the family, it was for me.
I wanted to feel something. That's a really crazy scene too. Man, that show's so good. That show is so good. And last week when I was talking about it and saying how season 5 is my least favorite, well, literally the next day I watched more of it, and I'm like, nope, changed my mind. The first half of season 5 is kind of slow, but the second half of that season is so full of emotion and amazing acting. Like the moment when Walt goes in and basically kidnaps his own baby, and Skylar is screaming and yelling and trying to get the baby back, and Walt Jr.'s in there and doesn't know what to do. And man, holy crap. Or when Maria, I think, is trying to take the baby as well because she knows about Walt now. And it's like, this baby isn't safe here. I need to take this baby out of your house. And I guess the moments with the baby, I'm a sucker for that. But it's just such a good universe, and El Camino really adds to it in a good way. Rest in peace, Hank Schrader. Man, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Tragic. Yeah. Well, are you ready? Are we ready to do ratings?
Yeah, let's give our cushion reviews.
Sounds good, man. I'll let you go first.
So Breaking Bad is the pinnacle of television right now. I'm still like the only competition at all for Breaking Bad is Better Call Saul, which is essentially, little brother to Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
And to me, those are fives. El Camino, I really enjoyed, but I don't enjoy them, and it didn't make me feel the kind of intense, powerful. Sorry, this is my dog's ball.
You're good.
Powerful emotions that both those series did. That said, it is really, really good. So I'm going to give it a 4 cushions out of 5.
I think that is a very, very good review, and I think I stand on the same level with you on that. I think that Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad are both like 5s when it comes to television. They are amazing. They're works of art. But El Camino is definitely a step down. It's still really good, but it doesn't stand on its own. You have to have watched Breaking Bad to really enjoy El Camino, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But on its own, it's not as good as those two. So yeah, 4 out of 5 as well. That's kind of where I'm at with it.
Well, it looks like we're in agreement.
Yes,
you should
sir.
definitely watch El Camino. It's rewatchable. It's on Netflix. You can stream it right next to your reruns of Breaking Bad and seasons 1 through 4 of Better Call Saul. Which, if you've gone through Netflix, if you've gone through The Office and Parks and Rec, and you're looking for something really good, you're never going to get tired of Breaking Bad. You're never going to get tired of Better Call Saul. Both really fantastic series, and El Camino is kind of the capstone. So definitely check them out.
Agreed. Definitely check them out. They're on Netflix. Someday I imagine they'll be taken off, but I watched the original, my first time Breaking Bad in like 2014 on Netflix. It's still on Netflix. Watched it again. El Camino's on there. They seem to have a very good relationship with AMC, so who knows if it'll ever be taken off, but give them all a watch. Outstanding. Yeah. Well, let's get into Fab or Flub, and then we'll wrap up from there. So did you add any of these to the list?
Yeah, I added a bunch.
Okay. Well, then I want to make sure that we talk about the things that you added on there then. Because I had 2 that were more important for me to talk about, the bigger pieces of news. So we'll get the elephant in the room right up. Henry Cavill's Superman is coming back to Warner Brothers DC Universe. Woohoo! Someone edited that on me, and I don't like it. That's probably why. I said he's coming back to the DCEU, but whatever. Same thing.
I'm thrilled. This is fantastic. Henry Cavill did such a good job. I've always said, and I've said it here many times, so if Lance is going to give me crap about it, but I've always said casting was never the problem with the DCEU. It's always been writing and directing. Henry Cavill made for a great Superman. He really put his heart and soul into the role, and not only that, but he brought that persona, that kind of Clark Kent Superman persona, into his life, and he tries to personify the truth, the justice. And he's not American, but the old saw was truth, justice, and the American way, and he really tries to be that person in real life. If you follow his Instagram, he'd had this one really great bit where he went to New York and tried to prove how easy it is for Clark Kent to hide behind glasses because he did the same thing and nobody recognized him. So I'm really thrilled.
Me too, man. This is great news. To be clear, to clarify on this, as far as we know, he's not getting a Man of Steel 2. What we know is that he's going to be coming back for roles in other DC movies. And what I'm really hoping to see, and I'm going to pull a Sam on you here, what I like to call a Sam anyway. Give me your pitch in 30 seconds for Henry Cavill's next role in a DC movie. I'll go ahead and start and just say that I want him to appear in Shazam 2. I want them to be fighting side by side. Since it's Shazam movie, I want Shazam to beat the villain, but I want him and Superman to be fighting side by side because that's a moment where Superman can actually get beaten. He is vulnerable to magic, and if you have them going toe to toe with the villain, I think that'd be really cool to have them. Maybe not equal parts, but fairly equal parts. Kind of like Black Widow in The Winter Soldier, where she played a very big role in that movie. I would love to see that in Shazam 2.
Okay, so here's my question to you. In Shazam 2, are we going to get the weird worm villain, or are we going to get Black Adam?
We're not going to get Black Adam because Black Adam, I'm pretty sure, comes out after Shazam 2. So I doubt we're going to get Black Adam. That would be really cool, though. I think Black Adam would be my ideal in this pitch, but I didn't bring that up because I'm pretty sure that's not the case for Shazam 2.
Because I think you've got to save Superman for a battle against Black Adam. Shazam is going to be, or Shazam 2 is going to be a tough one for Superman. I mean, it's cool if he's like a cameo, but having him come in and play cleanup already, like this is supposed to be his sophomore outing, right? Shazam's sophomore outing. So he's going to be out there doing a little bit more on his own, falling into his powers and the team that he's got with him, his family, and they're going to be tested in a new way, but they're still going to come out on top through the power of family and trust and friendship. And then I think it's with Black Adam. When Adam comes to town and he's one of them, that's when you got to bring in the outside help. I think that's where Superman comes in. So let's see. I think Shazam is probably the best place to see Clark Kent make an appearance, because they're kind of on the same tier of power. I mean, Superman is stronger physically, and he's got a pretty similar repertoire of side abilities. They can both fly. Superman's probably faster than Shazam, but they do kind of occupy a little bit of the same space. So yeah, I think having him go up against Black Adam would be good. But the worm, he should be able to deal with on his own.
So maybe he just gets a cameo. They built him up so much in the original Shazam that I think it'd be really good to actually have Henry Cavill Superman in Shazam 2. But maybe it's just a cameo.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best.
I think that's more likely. I'm just dreaming. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think Black Adam would be awesome to have Superman and Shazam going together against him. I think that would be really cool.
I think that's one of my wish list moments. I'm not really interested in seeing Superman fight against the worm guy.
Yeah.
I am really fascinated to see Superman go up against Black Adam. I think that would be a really cool
Me too.
Moment. I mean, right now you've got Aquaman 2 coming up eventually.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to recast Mera, I believe. And then you've got Wonder Woman 2 is already in the can, so I don't think he's going to be in that.
Yeah, I don't either.
Plus,
that's in the 80s. He wouldn't be in that.
He wouldn't be in that. So, I mean, really, it's just Shazam. Shazam's really the only place to go with that.
I mean, Suicide Squad 2, but again, I think that'd be a cameo. Like, I don't think Superman fits into that.
is The Suicide Squad. It's called The Suicide Squad now. Is that a 2? Is that even a sequel? From what I understand, it's like a reimagining of the Suicide Squad, or taking them back to their comic book roots. They're going to have different costumes. It's going to be a whole different deal.
Oh wow!
I mean, they're still keeping a lot of the same actors,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not like they're playing the same characters, or it's not like an extension of the first movie. I think it's going to be a different deal. Okay. But again, that one's kind of in the can already, so I don't know that.
Is that one already done?
Well, I think they've done shooting. I think they're done shooting. I follow one of the guys who was in that movie. His name's Flula Borg, or DJ Flula, and he plays a character in that movie. And during the shooting, he was filming a lot of Instagram workouts. And what's so funny is, like, they never talk about how much steroids they use, but they definitely use steroids, man.
I agree. I agree. So I would love to see, though. Yeah,
it is fantastic news. I would love to see a Man of Steel 2 that sees Kal-El, Clark Kent flying off into space in search of Kandor, or in search of what's left of Krypton.
Yeah,
I feel like that's the next step they need to take Superman. I don't know if Warner Brothers is going to see it that way. I don't know if they're going to put the money into it, but I would really love to see something like that.
Well, I know they weren't happy with Zack Snyder, but what I'm wondering if Justice League, the Snyder Cut does so well, like if it does really well on HBO Max, if maybe Zack Snyder could come back and do Man of Steel 2 and get to kind of finish that vision that he had for the character. I mean, I'd like to see it. I like Man of Steel a lot. I'd love to see Zack Snyder continue on with his vision.
I like the first 2 acts of Man of Steel. I feel like the thing he was trying to set up in the first 2 acts does get kind of lost during the tower toppling in the 3rd act. Mm-hmm. But I did really jive with the first 2 acts of Man of Steel, and I would love to see that story continued, and be really faithful to the way he was going with it initially. I do wish his Superman was a little bit brighter and a little bit less of those dark filters, but it is what it is.
I agree on that. The dark filters are a lot. All right, well, let's jump into something else. And this, I don't think, unless you really want to discuss it, I don't think we need to go deep. But Sonic the Hedgehog is getting a sequel. I think this is great. I'm excited. Really liked the first movie.
Yeah, so what I really like about this is that the studio listened to the fans when they said your Sonic design was way off. And then when they said, hey, you're right, fans, we've got to redesign. And so they redesign, and then the fans come out in droves to see the movie. And not only that, but they did a lot of product placement, but I feel like they did it in such a clever and charming way that even though it was totally obvious, like, it really was charming, and it wasn't offensive at all that they were doing the product placement.
I agree. There's
all the Olive Garden bits of the when you're there, your family, all that stuff. Like, that was so funny. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I think it worked really well in that movie. There are some, though, that it's egregious. Man of Steel, speaking of which, was pretty egregious in the product placements. It was pretty bad.
Yeah, it's like Sonic the Hedgehog created a new meta for product placements. It used to be like you would do a movie around a car, a racing movie around a particular car, and then that was the coolest car in the movie. Or then you'd have people slamming down their Dr. Pepper right in front of the camera with the condensation dripping down the side, or things like that. And it seems like the meta was then, let's be more subtle with the product placement, because the audience doesn't like feeling they're watching a commercial.
Yeah.
And then the product placements got more and more subtle to, like, you see an ad on a bus station or on a bus stop, and then the bus stop gets blown up by the Chitauri, and so or the bus stop gets blown up by the Chitauri, but you're seeing the product ad in that moment before it gets exploded. So it's very subtle. And then Sonic the Hedgehog comes out and they do a new meta, which is forget subtlety. Let's be really in your face, but be tongue in cheek about it. Let's make fun of product placements while we're placing the product. And that was really fun. And I think you'll probably see a lot more movies doing product placements in that way because it was clever. Yeah. And, some movies, they drive the art, and some movies, they drive the commerce. And John Wick probably advanced the art of action, and Sonic is advancing the commerce of product placement in movies. So it's clever, and I hope they keep that going, keeping up the clever ways to integrate the business of movie making.
I really like that. And was that an intentional segue?
All my segues are intentional.
All right. Well, speaking of John Wick, it was going to be called Scorn, but Keanu kept forgetting to call it that and called it John Wick instead. I can't imagine it being called Scorn.
Can you imagine it even? Like, what a horrible name for what that movie became, right?
Yeah, I honestly feel like it wouldn't have been as successful. I think John Wick is such a better name.
Think about the first scene where John Leguizamo is talking to Tarasov on the phone for the first time. He calls up John Leguizamo. He says, "I heard you struck my son." And he says, "Well, sir, yes, your son killed John Wick's dog and stole his car." Right? And just the mention of the name John Wick. And he says, "Oh," and then he hangs up. like
yeah.
Scorn doesn't capture that kind of awe and that kind of terror that the name John Wick portrayed in the film. So Keanu was right all along. Like, you got to listen to Keanu. I don't care who you are. When Keanu says, "You're beautiful," that's right. So you got to listen to Keanu. If he says, "No, the movie's not called Scorn, that's dumb, we're calling it John Wick," or even if he forgets that it's called Scorn and he calls it John Wick, he's right. You do what Keanu says. What would Keanu do?
He's totally right. Because, had it been called Scorn, like, I get that. Like, you're trying to say, like, he's been scorned, and so he's kind of coming after you. But then Scorn 2, Scorn 3, like, that doesn't sound as cool to me, It is John Wick's story, and like you said, he is the boogeyman, like the villain of the movie hears the name John Wick and gets scared. So I love that it's called John Wick. Like, it's so cool. Those movies are great because the hero is like everybody's nightmare. And it's so fun to watch the hero just like terrorize everybody. But he's not a bad guy. He's not a villain. He was an assassin, but like he's got a good heart. He's a good guy who just wanted to live with his wife in peace. And then you had to go kill an effing dog. And now his life has been turned upside down. It's a silly concept, but man, those movies are fantastic.
Yeah. Why were they even thinking of calling it such a dumb name as Scorn? Like, Scorn doesn't even apply to this situation. Scorn is like you jilt somebody and then they're mad about it. Like, that's Scorn. Like, this is vengeance. This is payback. And Scorn doesn't even fit the second or third movies at all.
No.
That's not even Scorn at all. Like,
that's what I mean.
Call it Scorn at that. So it would have been Scorn 2, John Wick Part 1, or like the Rambo, like how they did Rambo, right?
Yeah.
But no, it had to be John Wick, and Keanu was right. So let's all strive to listen to Keanu a little bit more in our lives.
I agree. That's a really good idea. He is a beautiful man. And I heard he likes Naruto. Just kidding.
Well,
I made that up as another segue. Casting for live action Naruto movie underway. Did I say that right, by the way?
Naruto, yeah, that's how you say it.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so Naruto is an anime, very popular, probably about 10 years ago. It had something like 400 episodes. It did really well, and it was very influential in a lot of communities, to the point where, like last year, Michael B. Jordan came out with a Naruto clothing line, and it was like very expensive. And it was all themed around Naruto and different symbology of Naruto. And I don't know how successful it was, but it was interesting that they would take something like that. And it was kind of like the little brother to Dragon Ball Z for a little while.
Okay.
Anyway, there's been a lot of talk about doing a live action Naruto, either series or movie. And it's been kind of, just there's three main properties that anime properties that have been gestating for a long time. We saw Bleach come out, I think, in 2018 or 2017. And that was a Japanese production that they released in the US through Netflix. And it was pretty good. Like, it wasn't like knocking anybody's socks off, but they nailed the effects and they nailed the swordplay, and they got the characters pretty spot on, and they wisely kept the scope of that movie pretty narrow.
So it was better than Dragon Ball.
Better than Dragon Ball, better than Death Note.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And so the next one that they're looking to tackle is Naruto, and they've been developing that for a long, long time. And this week we got news that they are casting for a live action Naruto to be produced. Asian actors, but English speaking movie. So,
okay.
Who knows? I mean, it could be a really good production, and we're hoping that they capture the ideas that are integral to the story there, which is isolation and connection with other people. A lot of times through fighting. And I don't know if I've said it here before, but I think there are some conversations that words fail and you just have to speak through your fists. And there's a lot of that in Naruto, where they, through their fighting, through their combat, they come to an understanding between the two sides. It's kind of a fascinating concept, and hopefully they get that right. But who knows when this is going to come down? They just started casting. Naruto in the anime was 12 when it starts. And I don't know if they're going to go with a young Naruto or maybe try to aim a little bit older so that it's a little bit more physically fit, or who knows? I don't know which way they're going to.
I mean, I haven't watched Naruto, but I would imagine they're probably going to cast someone a little older, because that seems to be what a lot of productions typically do. I mean, if you have like a physical role, especially. Yeah,
and the structure of the story is not too far away from like Harry Potter. But Harry Potter is not very physically demanding on the main three actors, whereas Naruto, there's a lot of running, there's a lot of fighting, there's a lot of like skills, like knife skills and ninja star skills, and then of course the hand signs that they do. They have like hand signs for all the Chinese zodiac, and they have to weave their hand signs really quick in order to cast their jutsu, which is essentially just a magic spell.
Yeah. I imagine they still have a kid though. Maybe just like a 15-year-old or something like that. A little bit older, maybe more able to do some of that physicality, a little bit more through puberty, so that they're not going to evolve into like something really weird. Because you run that risk if you cast an 11, 12-year-old kid, that they might go through puberty and look vastly different.
And sound vastly.
And sound different. And exactly. So if you get like a 15-year-old kid that's probably gone through most of that already, you're going to be safer. You're not rolling the dice as much.
Right. Yeah. So, I think it's a good sign that Hollywood is starting to understand a little bit better about how to do anime. There is another big production. I'm a big fan of One Piece. You see my One Piece paraphernalia all over the place.
Yes, sir.
And we talked about a One Punch Man. Let's see, One Punch Man right here.
Yeah.
One Punch Man production at going forward at Sony. So yeah, it's a good time to be an anime fan from back in the early 2000s and the 2010s.
No, that's awesome. I've heard a lot more about One Punch Man because Tyler started watching it and he made it sound freaking awesome. I really need to watch One Punch Man because it sounds hilarious. I didn't realize it was a little bit more adult oriented cartoon, anime. Like it's not like he said that it's like an adult cartoon, but it's more geared towards an older audience. It's not a kid show like Avatar.
I would say their target audience is like late teens, early 20s.
Mm-hmm.
And mentally, emotionally, we're probably still stuck in that phase.
Well, he was talking about the whole like, I don't know, it's just like it's an anime that makes fun of anime is kind of how he worded it.
Yeah, the first season definitely is like that. And the second season it kind of finds its own story, and it becomes its own thing, and the characters have their own philosophy, independent of other tropes.
Yeah.
And it starts to define its own tropes, which is, I think, the mark of a really good series is that it defines its own tropes. But yeah, definitely the first season, it's subverting expectations and popular anime tropes and superhero tropes.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. I'm going to have to give it a watch here when I have some time. But there were a couple more on here. I don't know did you add the one about Cate Blanchett?
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. I never played Borderlands, so I don't know.
I haven't either. The news is that Cate Blanchett is going to star in a Borderlands movie. And then the last bit of news we have is that Lucifer season 6 has been confirmed. I think it was like up in the air whether or not that was going to happen, but it has been confirmed. So I don't watch either of those. I don't watch Lucifer and I haven't played Borderlands, so I don't really have a lot of thoughts on either of these other than cool, more content. Like I'm always down for video game content and people love Lucifer. I'm glad it's getting more. So yeah, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on either of those?
Neat.
Fab, I guess.
Well,
all right. Well, that'll do it for us tonight then. Thank you, everybody, for
watching.
Well, I thought we did it earlier, but go ahead. Go ahead. What have you been watching?
Let's see. I found this this YouTube. I mean, maybe found is the wrong word because they do have like tens of millions of subscribers. But I was watching. If you like physics and silliness, how ridiculous! It's a bunch of Australian boys, and they drop things from really high up, and it's actually surprisingly entertaining. Primarily because their accents are kind of goofy, but it's also really fun to watch them drop. They like in today's video, they were dropping increasingly heavy wrecking balls onto a super heavy duty trampoline and seeing how high these wrecking balls would bounce back up.
Oh, I've seen a little bit of this. It is kind of funny.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But that's one thing I've been watching. As far as shows go, I have been, like you, kind of catching up on or rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender. I don't want to get it confused with the movie The Last Airbender because I will never, ever watch that again. Maybe if somebody paid me $100, I would sit through it, but I'm never going to watch it again for free.
So let me ask you something. Is Avatar: The Last Airbender considered anime or no?
That's a good question. I would say it's anime inspired or anime adjacent, but I wouldn't say it's
because it's a United States production, right? It's not a Japanese.
It's produced in the United States, and
and
it's good. I think the thing that makes it very anime-like is that it's a long-form story. So when you think of cartoons, they're very episodic. In other words, the status quo doesn't change from one episode to the next.
Mm-hmm.
Tom may catch Jerry, but at the end of the episode, they're still going to be the same Tom and Jerry.
Yeah.
And then start on the next episode, it's going to be the same deal. So it's very episodic. Like The Simpsons, it's like very episodic as well. There's really not a lot of change in the characters over the course of the series.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the whole intention behind Avatar: The Last Airbender is to tell the story of transition for this one character over the course of 3 seasons. And so the whole purpose of that is to show the transition rather than just be episodic. And anime is a lot like that. It's not episodic; it's a long form story. And if you catch up with a character in episode 1 and then you go to the end of episode 10 and you didn't see anything in between, you're going to be looking at a different guy. And that's to me, that's what sets apart cartoons from anime.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was just curious because I guess I always thought of Avatar as an anime, and then as I started watching it, I'm like, oh wait, no, that's Greg Daniels, right? Or Greg Berlanti.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did it. I was like, oh, this isn't anime. I think it was the art direction kind of reminded me of anime, but then as I was watching it, it doesn't have all of the same tropes either. Right. Anime has a lot of those. It's not a bad thing.
Nosebleed.
The tears coming down their cheeks, just the art is very specific. A lot of exclamation points that'll just pop up over somebody's head because they got surprised. Yeah. Just that kind of stuff. And the Avatar: The Last Airbender doesn't have that stuff. So anyway, what else you been watching?
That's pretty much it. I mean, I've been rewatching the Bleach anime. I've been watching a lot of anime, and I know you're not really interested in anime, but Bleach anime. There's a new anime they released on Netflix called Doro Hedoro, which is kind of a dark comedy. It's really fascinating and it's fun to watch. I've been reading a comic called Spy Family. It's not really a comic; it's a manga. And it's very fascinating. It's about a spy who has to put together a fake family in order to pull off a mission. And the people that he brings into his circle all have secrets of their own. And so they're all playing this kind of game of cat and mouse with each other, but trying to maintain the outward appearance of a real family.
Sounds interesting.
Yeah, so if you want to read that, you can go to viz.com, and it's $2 a month to get the archive chapters. Otherwise, you can get the first 3 chapters and the most recent 3 chapters. And it's not very far along, so playing catch-up won't take you very long. I think it's in closing in on chapter 30, but it's not too far.
Nice. I actually started reading a book called Name of the Winds earlier this week, but not very far in yet. So I think Name of the Wind, actually. But I'm not even through the first chapter yet. I just have been reading it little by little, like 2 pages at a time, the last few days. So I'm told it's amazing. My brother says it's one of his favorite books ever. He's been begging me to read it for 2-3 years now, and I finally just gave in, put it on my phone, and so it's a nice poop break kind of thing to read. All right, man. Well, I think that'll do it for us then, unless there's anything else you had, Sam.
Oh, I'm good. Just go check out the for all our viewers and listeners, please just go check out the Eric Roberts and Eliza Roberts interview. It was a great time. We'd love to keep doing stuff like that. We just want to make sure that you guys are interested in that stuff. It's been getting a lot of traffic so far, but we'd like to see those numbers come up too.
Absolutely. Great interview. Check that out. And you can always check us out on couchcrunchers.com. If you're listening to the podcast and haven't subscribed to the YouTube, please give us a subscribe over there on youtube.com. And of course, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We are constantly posting memes and news, and we'd love to interact with you guys on social media. So at any rate, that'll do it for us tonight. So until next time, see you later.